boy, I forgot to turn my sound on. Thank you for telling me. I forgot to turn my mic on. God. Can you hear me now? Hopefully you can. Alright, good. Alright, so as I was saying, the stories are set on the planet Novus, and are primarily set either in Lumios, Tenebris, or Linen. Now, Aaron, Soverlis, and all this batch, along with over here, is actually a part of Tenebris. So, yeah, just FYI. It's a vassal state. Aaron's a vassal state. The entire planet is run by the Council of Novus. It used to be called the Council of Kings, but as there was more and more queens and empresses coming out, it got renamed to the Council of Novus. Now, there are a series of 10 stories. Hi, cat. Oh, the cat's going away, I think? Oh, no. Hang on. I'll show you the cat. Woo! Where am I pointing at? Hey, cat. Oh, you're going away. Okay. Oh, well. A wee bit quiet. Okay. Oh. Sorry, the cat's not very social today. I mean, I can pick him up probably. Or he might be coming this way. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my sound's good. I can turn it up if you want. This better? I turned it up by about half. Alright. So yeah, that concludes my little thing on the Council of Novus. They're the governing body that runs everything. Every kingdom has their own laws, but they all must follow the laws of Novus. And the Council of Novus runs Council of Cats, unfortunately not. There are cat people on the council. Actually, no, there aren't. They're supposed... There aren't actually any cat people on the council. Forgive me. There are wolf people. Fortunately not. Cats are almost extinct in my world. Well, Orans is what they're called. Cat people are almost extinct in my world. So yeah, Council of Novus. Big deal. They control several planets, and they essentially tell the laws. Some of the fun laws are every kingdom has to be registered with them, and they decide if a king can be king. That's why they were called the Council of Kings. One, because they were able to cut down any king that was too tyrannical or that went against their laws, and two, because they were mostly comprised of kings. Nowadays, it's no longer the case. I actually might change the name from Council of Novus to something else. Council of Rulers. Actually, let's do that. because technically it's the Council of Rulers. Where was I? Ah, right. Interesting laws. The Council of Rulers only allows up to 7 slaves. Slavery has yet to be abolished, but people are only allowed 7. Kingdoms that have the most empires that have the most slavery is Raean and Varisti. Protractors. Is Raean and Varisti. They're the ones with the most slaves. Tenebris is phasing them out. Lumios, they're illegal. Linen, they're illegal. Stale is phasing them out. Ennor, they're still legal in Ennor. This one's important to the plot. I just haven't found a name for it yet. They're illegal here. Soren phasing them out. Botlia still legal. Mivuzia still legal. Niteria phasing them out, as well as Kenny. And Selnar, they're still legal. Alteria, there just isn't any. They never had slaves. Fun fact. There is some social progression going on. Now there are a fair bit of tyrants, but they're mostly all within Tenebris. They're either vassal states, or it's the Empire. So the Emperor is a bit on a power trip and is making everyone very, forcing pretty much every king to be tyrannical if they want to survive. The only exception is this one, the Kingdom of King Eric, where King Eric has been successfully, but with very little money left over, managed to keep his kingdom out of tyranny. No, not the Emperor's New Groove. I forgot water. So this is the only kingdom that has successfully managed to avoid becoming tyrannical under the tyrannical emperor's rule. Now, Ostia, this one, and Serera. Sorry. Gonna have a coughing fit. Give me a sec. I suppose it does parallel our world a little bit. Anyway. So the main story usually happens within Tenebris. Shade happens within here. Yari Land. Forgot what the name was for a sec. Yari Land. And 2 other stories are our lovely story about an assassin and our story, which eventually goes to Linen and then no longer is a part of Tenebris, happen actually in the capital. So, spoilers warning now. I know it's in my title, but spoiler warning. Earth does exist in this world. Well, not in this universe, but in a other universe. They exist. Hang on. Give me a moment. Water is required. Alright, welcome back. I have water now. Hopefully that wasn't too long. So, where was I? Ah, yes. Explaining the plot of my story. So, Earth is in another universe, parallel. Well, not parallel, but accompanying. Oh god, the water is not helping. Accompanying this universe. Now, during my stories, one of our lovely rulers ends up on Earth through no fault of her own, and rather, very much the fault of a demon. They cause chaos everywhere. So she falls to Earth and accidentally leaves behind 2 stones. One, known as an ether stone, is essentially living condensed power. I think there's already enough chaos in chat. Thank you, Mike Wing. Is essentially living power. Now, the other stone is known as Ghost Stone, which is a natural power inhibitor that grows within planets. So those 2 stones end up on Earth, and a group of people who later form an organization known as Blue Moon find them and start experimenting and kidnapping people. Experimenting on people and kidnapping them. To essentially send them to another world. Now, this other world doesn't necessarily need to be Novus. There are multiple worlds. But they start experimenting, and at first every attempt is a failure. One second. Yeah, it is pretty traumatic. So anyway, one of my characters ends up in a car crash that kills her parents before getting kidnapped. She goes through a bunch of experimentation and becomes the first successful soul transfer to reach Novus. The reason she's the first successful one is she is the first one to have hit a soul on her way and didn't just get lost in the vastness of multiple universes. So there's this demon named Demonica, who's the demon of death. She feeds off death. And she's been terrorizing worlds and killing everyone in them for eons. One day, while she finishes destroying a world and decides to travel to another one. While she's traveling to another world, she ends up hitting this odd soul that's just traveling through the cosmos. Why, thank you. And essentially the two souls fuse and end up knocking themselves out of the path and onto Novus. Into a little village here. Somewhere here. There you go. To a little village in Tenebris. Now, whew, brain fog. Now, neither of them, both their memories is locked, and it's as if they are an entirely new person because their souls literally fused together. And so essentially creating a new person. This person was nicknamed Angel by the people in the village. She had Demonica's body, human form, and essentially Eveline's, who's the human that got sent by Blue Moon, the stray soul, and Eveline's personality. So she ended up being essentially an angelic demon, hence the nickname Angel. Now, one of the things that happens in this world is regular checkups to get taxes from the kingdoms and from the villages and kingdoms. And if they can't pay, then the entire place is burned to the ground. And that is why Angelic Demon. Yeah, it is kind of a oxymoron, but oh well. Anyway, the entire place is burnt down. And this particular village did not manage to get enough for their taxes. So I jokingly call them the Three Horsemen, because in my brain they look like they ride shadow horses and are clad in black because their uniform is black. So they're the horsemen. Like the headless horseman. Anyway, so the enforcers of this rule and the people in charge of burning down the village come, and this lovely angelic demon learns one of her powers, which is mental manipulation. Essentially, mind control. And sends them all the way back to the capital before passing out. The next person to come, since the horseman came and had dealt with someone who can send them back to the capital without them really wanting to, is the yes, winner of mind games. Except, actually, yes. Now the reason she passed out is because of something known as power shock in my world. If you use too much power than your body's able to handle, your body essentially self-destructs. The power breaks your body apart until nothing is left but ash. And it also takes over your mind. But in this case, Demonica's body is capable of handling that level of power, just not Eveline. Eveline is not used to that level of power, and thus she passes out. So anyway, the general of the Empire, Sylvan, he's a really nice guy, just in a bad situation, and also a longtime friend of the Emperor's. Goes to check out the situation. He finds well, not young, but lady who's passed out, who's probably responsible for what happened to the horseman, and decides, you know what, I'm gonna get her out of Tenebris. So he starts his trip and tries to get all the way to Horn, only to be stopped around here. I don't know if you need to be laid back. It's a lot of studying. Surprisingly. Because it's controlling the neurons in the brain. And not just general mind control. So, yeah, a lot of studying. You have to know how they work and where it is. And the only reason Angel was able to do that is because of Demonica's previous knowledge. Because otherwise she wouldn't have been able to control. Or maybe she would have, but very clumsily. Now, he gets stopped before he can get to Horn. Yes, a major mind control. I suppose, yeah. So he gets to Horn, but doesn't. He doesn't get to Horn and gets stopped by his own guards, who essentially escort him back to the capital. Because although he's general, he knows that no one's allowed in or out of Tenebris. Well, people are allowed in, just not out. So he gets escorted back to Nox, where the Emperor then threatens his wife and kids. If he doesn't, if he pulls another stunt like that. So, of course, he agrees, or whatever. But his wife and kids are moved to the castle so that the Emperor can have a better eye on them. By now, Sylvan is far ready to betray his oldest friend. But that gets into backstory of the Emperor, which I'm not going to get into today. So, anyway. Yes. Angel. The Emperor kind of figures out that Angel's is two souls in one body. Because, honestly, she acts young. Even though her body definitely isn't. So, she acts into an unnatural amount. And where was I? And essentially decides to raise her because she looks a lot like his own daughter, who ran away from him because he tried experimenting on her. Anyway, he doesn't experiment on this daughter. He adopts her and raises her to be his personal assassin, which she does become, and especially considering she feeds off death, it's perfect for her. Well, he raises her to be his personal assassin after he figures out that she feeds on death because she's Demonica's body. Now, eventually, the Emperor's daughter takes a trip to Nox. I'm not sure what for yet, but she takes a trip to Nox and meets the newly named Marina, who's Angel, but now he renamed her. And she immediately understands what's going on because her name is Raean. So she convinces Marina / Angel to leave the Empire and eventually, well, she doesn't convince her immediately. She talks to her, and through that conversation, it kind of unlocks something within Marina / Angel, which allows her to slowly get Demonica's and Eveline's memories back, which starts unfusing the souls, separating the souls again. So now that they're separate and they have their memories, they decide not to work for the Emperor anymore. So they leave and seek shelter in Lumios, where the Empress brings them with open arms, and she starts working as a mercenary. Now, the Emperor is on the hunt for her, but not for very long. Mostly because she sends back the heads of everyone he sends to her. After all, he raised her to be his best assassin. So yeah, she now works as a mercenary and is staying in Lumios, south of the capital. The next person the Emperor tries to take as a daughter is a girl with a similar name to his daughter's name, Mary. Mary is also from Earth. She is the first successful body transfer of Blue Moon. So until then, Blue Moon has only been able to send souls to Novus and to other planets and universes. Mary's is the first body transfer. And that's when an interesting detail is revealed, which is people from Earth are actually from this universe. It comes with a whole bunch of mental shenanigans and universal shenanigans with the previous owner of the Aether's power. But essentially, they were sent away because the planet was breaking apart. And now they've figured out how to come back. But as she comes back, she gets marked by the Goddess of Wolves, which puts her in line to be the next Queen of Linen, since Linen hasn't had a ruler in a while. So she is a hybrid, a mix of elf, angel, lichen, and what was the last one? Oh crap, I don't remember the last one. Alright, I'll remember it later. Would be interesting, yes. So she loses her humanity and becomes this hybrid of sorts. And she becomes next in line for the Kingdom of Linen. Now keep in mind, this girl is 10. Yeah, I probably will. Keep in mind, this girl is 10. She's now in charge of an entire kingdom, and her teacher is the greatest empire tyrant of the planet. So once she ascends to the throne, she herself becomes a tyrant. She gets married to actually the Emperor's son, transferring the Kingdom of Linen from Tenebris ownership to Lumio's ownership. um, to Lumio's ownership. And so the Kingdom of Linen becomes a vassal state of Lumios, and the king consort of Linen is also the crown prince of Lumios. So anyway, fun fact. So she becomes an emperor, and she becomes a queen and a tyrant. I keep associating tyrant with emperors because I have two tyrannical emperors, but not all emperors are tyrants. Fun fact. Anyway. And eventually they manage to send another Blue Moon manages to send another body to Novus. They found that Novus is very receptive to receiving their people. Who just so happens to be Mary's cousin. So that cousin eventually gets through to Mary and convinces her to not be a tyrant, makes her realize that she is a tyrant, and convinces her not to be. And thus, she slowly but surely regains the trust of her people and becomes quite a good queen. A very strict and very efficient queen, but a good queen nonetheless. Eventually, she has children and abdicates the throne to her daughter, who takes good care of it, and her husband, aka the crown prince of Lumios, becomes emperor, and that's when a very dangerous thing happens. Because Mary, as part of being a newborn soul and herself in one body, has too much power for her body. Which leads to a slow version of power shock. As in, your body is slowly decaying from the amount of power it has within it. So she makes the decision to, sorry, I probably should have mentioned, this before. I probably should have put a content warning. She decides to, die. But right before she can go through with it, she gets pregnant. So she decides that instead of just ridding the world of her presence, she would simply do something that was considered worse than death at the time, a fate worse than death, and permanently remove her power as she becomes empress, in order to spend time with her child. So in doing that, harkens back to the ghost stone I was talking about earlier, the natural power inhibitor. Because if you take that stone and turn it into liquid and then drink it, the stone hardens within your body, and essentially you are no longer able to use your power. Yes, it is the ultimate sacrifice for love. So yeah, fun fact, that happens. Now, there are several other stories. There's Raean's story, which is actually part of the first book. Well, at the end of the first book, we see her. The first book is about a little demon named Shade from Eledi village in Tenebris, who finds out unfortunately, he eats human souls because he's a hybrid demon. He's 2 parts different demons, and thus he eats human souls instead of human blood. That leads him to being exiled and him going on a search. Now, Raean is also the goddess of immortality, so she sometimes receives souls. And so they end up becoming mercenaries and using that to feed Shade. Eventually, Raean's brother, Hatir, also the crown prince of Lumios, who eventually marries Mary. Ignore the age gap. They live for 20,000 years. Sorry, 60,000. Not 20,000. Was it 20,000 or 60,000? I don't remember. I'd have to check. I think it's 60,000. Convinces her to take over a kingdom because she's rightfully entitled to. Like, if she didn't run away, she would have been given a kingdom by her parents. And she ends up deciding that she's going to stick it to her father and take over the kingdom of Serera. So she does so, and then the demons of Eledi village end up declaring war on Serera in order to get Shade back, to which ends up with Shade and the orchestrator of that war dying, sucked into a black hole, because that's a wonderful way to die. That black hole then turns into a portal, which Raean falls through and ends up on Earth. Then we have the entire Earth debacle, where she has to find a way back to Novus. She succeeds with the help of a lovely little girl named Eveline. Continuity! It's fun. Now, Earth is known... The special thing about Earth is there is so much energy on Earth that simply using your powers, people from Novus using their powers, would be instantly devoured by their own power and would essentially turn to ash. That's the fun thing about Earth. So, no powers, being helped by a young girl, she manages to get back to Novus. And then takes over, gets married, has kids, and lives happily ever after. While her father continuously adopts more people. Because drama. Her father's paranoid, by the way. She nearly killed him. Uh, he started experimenting on her because she nearly killed him. And his natural paranoia took over. Yeah. And then she ran away. So, anyway, my story, I'm calling the series right now, the tentative name for the series is Flawed. Because the flaws of one person affect others, and everyone has them. In this case, the flaws of one person affect the entire planet. That is the Emperor. His flaws affect the entire planet. Now, quick recap of characters. There is Eveline, the human who fuses with Demonica, who's a higher demon in Eos, who eats death. Then there's Raean, the Emperor's daughter, who runs away. Then there's Shade, who gets exiled, eventually meets Moran, and then dies. And then we have Mary, who is a human who loses her humanity, gets adopted by the Emperor, and becomes Queen of Linen. Then we have Hatir, who's the Crown Prince of Lumios, Maren's brother and son to the Emperor, and also Mary's husband. And then, naturally, we have this one I haven't mentioned yet, but we have the Empress of Lumios, who used to be married to the Emperor, but divorced him when his daughter ran away. When Maren ran away. So yeah, that's the basic gist of the series. I just wanted to give a basic gist before I start writing next Wednesday. So the first story I'll be writing is Shade. Let me pull up. So this is what I have right now. Oh, wait, no, this is the wrong copy. No, wrong one again. Ah, over here. This is what I have thus far. I used to have this much, but I didn't like it, so I'm rewriting it. Again. Oops. So, yeah. I wanted to give a quick rundown, and then it might not be next Wednesday. I might do it earlier. I've been wanting to write. Thank you, Mike. I've been wanting to write for a while now, so it might be earlier. Or I might be talking about more parts of the universe. For example, the second Tyrant Emperor, Axel, who has declared war on magic and makes everyone and uses Ghost Stone on everyone who he conquers, and he owns multiple planets. So, we'll see. But for now, that is where I'll end things off. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.